Minimizing that. 2 people entered. Those folks. And I need to invite or admit all. Admit all.
Water?
So I am going to go and click on this slideshow for a moment so that I don't have to do that. And then just from the beginning, if I can get my mouse on there. What does it say there?
It's just going to be when you start from the beginning. But you have to remember to unmute yourself before you start the presentation.
What? I'm clicking on that. Okay. Then I have to unmute myself.
It's on the main page when you do it.
So do I have to go back?
That's what I'm thinking.
Just hit escape.
Can it get any worse?
And then
I have to share my screen as well.
yeah, you just have to unmute yourself. It's really, you might even be done. That's all. That's all you click before you start the presentation.
So I'm unmuting myself
That's all you have to do. And then you start your presentation.
and then I'm sharing my screen. Right? I have to do this.
So you unmuted yourself. Yeah.
And you're talking. You have to unmute yourself.
I'm still muted.
No, you're not. Host me.
That's you. Here, I'm gonna turn my volume right now. There, you won't be able to hear yourself on mine.
You are screen sharing. It says I'm screen sharing.
I just thought.
Okay, and then I have to go up there and press. Right?
Archaic in terms of.
Do I have to do that?
From beginning.
From beginning. And then we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay, you need.
Good stuff.
It gets concerning when you gotta take something to your own hands to the point where you don't need to do it. Well, yeah, but techniques wouldn't get it.
So can you see any of the participants?
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's everything.
And can you see that they're muted or not?
Yeah, there. There's only 2 so far. Yeah.
They still, but, yeah. They're excused.
7 o'clock person.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. 7 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. We acknowledge we are gathered on Treaty 1 and Treaty 2 territories and that Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota Oete, Dene Sulane, Ojibwe, Nihitawak. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. Okay. I have a motion. Be it resolved that the agenda be adopted as presented. Can I have a
I'll motion that.
Councillor Ross,
I'll second the motion.
Councillor Brown seconds it. Anybody got any questions? Just we'll move the one item for council. 7, just give me, well, it's on the agenda, but we will move, give me a second here, 6.4 till we come out of camera. There's a couple of them that we'll table, but 6.4 we'll go in camera, then we'll come out and we'll deal with that later. So if everybody's okay with that, call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Now, just we'll call the financial, make a motion to go into, we need a motion to go into a public hearing for the 2024 financial plan presentation. Can I have a mover? Councillor Brown. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Maxwell. Anybody got any questions? All in favor? Carried. Yep. Okay, I'll just want to make a statement here for the audience there. We welcome everybody here, and for the people online, I want to make a comment that we will not take any questions. We'll allow the CEO, Holly Kreiskel, to go through the presentations. We don't want any interruptions. Please leave your questions. Write them down if you have any, and we'll take the questions at the end. And we'll also try to see if we can interact with the people online. Technology sometimes is challenging, but we'll do our best. So anyways, just make a comment here. The Region Council acknowledges the challenges we have faced over the last 12 to 18 months. Council would like to thank our staff, transportation personnel, the office and police services personnel for all their hard work and perseverance during these trying times. We have taken steps upright to ship, including utilizing the experience of 2 consultants who will work with our capable and dedicated staff to bring everything up to date, provide much needed training, and help set us in the path of success. Yeah, and so now I will hand it over to Holly, our interim CEO, to take us through the 2024 financial plan presentation. Holly, the floor is yours. Go right ahead.
Almost. So
Yep.
welcome. And thank you to everybody here and those folks online for attending and participating in today's financial plan. It's also known as the budget public hearing. And if you could introduce council and staff.
Yeah, okay. We'll do that. This is Holly Kreiskel, who is our interim CEO. Kayla Porter, our financial assistant. I got Deputy Reeve to my right here, Terry Ross, Councillor Bob Brown, most veteran council member, Ed Maxwell, and Shane Drohan, and myself, Reeve Samhofer. So now, once again, take it away, Holly.
Thank you. Okay, so the presentation format, we're going to have a bit of an introduction, and then I'm going to talk about the purpose of the financial plan. We'll talk about the assessment, how it's the basis for taxation, and give you some totals and some breakdowns. We're going to talk about assessment for tax levy, and yet it doesn't really affect the special service levy. About education or your school taxes, breakdown of those, and compare those to the municipal mill rates.
We'll do the budget tax levy overall increase. We'll talk about the revenues, give you a list of grants, and look at our total revenue chart. We're going to go through some examples of the tax changes from 2023 to 2024. We'll look at the reserves, the purposes of them, the balances of them. We'll look at the accumulated surplus from 2023 and look at the expenditure totals. They're usually within departments. We call them services. We'll look at them in detail and give you a chart about the breakdown of them. We'll look at debt, the surplus from 2023, and the totals of how the budget is balanced for 2024. We'll look at utilities, and lastly, capital, our purchases and our projects that are planned. And again, just repeating it, if we could save the questions to the end of the presentation. The public hearing purpose. The purpose is to inform the public about the financial situations and plan of the municipality, to assist the public to understand how their tax dollars are being spent. It provides an opportunity for public participation. It provides an understanding of the relationship between services and taxes and the difficult decisions that must be made by council to determine a balance between the two. The public hearing provides an overview of the 2024 financial situation. Assessment, the basis for taxes. Assessed values of all properties are determined by the provincial assessment branch. We pay $66,000 annually for this service. Total municipal portioned assessment for all municipalities within the boundaries of the Cornwallis municipality for 2023 was $278,442,000. In 2024, it is $283,510,170. It's an increase of $5 million, or about 1.8%. As 2024 was not a reassessment year, this change is the addition of new development or assessment removals or additions to the tax roll. Assessment is the basis for municipal taxes that are levied on the mill rate. Total portioned property assessment times the mill rate provides the total municipal mill rate tax revenue. Here's a graph of the total portioned assessment amounts from 2020 to 2024. And you can see a real rise in the 2023 year. That was a reassessment year. And the reassessment year was supposed to happen in 2022, but because of COVID, it didn't. The next slide is a chart of the 2024 total municipal assessment breakdown. You can see that the bulk of, or 68% of our assessment is from residential, and second is farm at 20%, and finally other, which is commercial or industrial, makes up 10%, and then there's a small slice for like institutional, railway, condo, co-op type of thing. That was 2%. Assessment and tax levies. A property's assessment is the provincial assessor's best estimate of the most probable selling price for a property. An individual property tax levy is calculated as follows. You take the assessed value times a portioned percentage. For farmland, that percentage is 26. For residential, it's 45. And for commercial, it's 65. You then divide your portioned assessment amount by 1,000 and then multiply that by your mill rate. Thus, the higher assessed properties pay a higher amount of property taxes under the mill rate Mill rate taxes are about 95% of the total municipal Cornwallis taxes. The remaining 5% is raised through the Waste and Recycling Special Service Levy. And this just repeats that calculation. It shows an individual resident tax calculation example. If you have a total assessed value of your property of $200,000 and it's a residential property, you multiply that by 45% to get your portioned assessment of $90,000. You divide that by 1,000, which gives you 90, and then you multiply them by your mill rate. The current 2024 mill rate is 6.902 to give an assessed property at 200,000 would result in $621.18 of municipal taxes for the 2024 year. And then the calculation below is just showing the total municipal mill rate calculation for the entire municipality. So our total portioned assessment for Cornwallis is $283,510,170. You divide that by 1,000, and then you multiply it by a mill rate of 6.902. So that results in $1,957,000 of taxes. Assessment and tax levies versus special service levies. So property assessment is not used in calculating the waste and recycling special service levy. Costs incurred in providing the service are equally levied on each property that receives the service. Each property pays the same special service levy amount regardless of assessed value. The waste and recycling special service levy covers the cost of the contractor to pick up and deliver the garbage and recycling to the disposal site. The total municipal waste and recycling special service levy is $103,539 for 2024. Individual properties receiving the service pay a per parcel annual amount of $216.04. Education levies. Property tax bills include both school taxes and municipal taxes. Which school division or divisions appear on which tax roll depends upon the property's location. The municipality has no control over the school taxes. The municipality must collect the school taxes and remit them to the school division and the province. The provincial education support levy is not paid on residential properties or on farm. It's only paid on other. And there's a chart which shows the amount of taxes that the Brandon School Division collected and what their mill rate was. And you can see their mill rate is increasing from 13.747 last year to 14.148 this year. Rolling River, their total taxes are actually decreasing a bit. Their mill rate went from 10.148 to 10.547 in 2024. And finally, the Southwest Horizon School Division, their mill rate is going from 10.125 to 10.468. The EPTCA, or the property tax credit, starting in 2024, the province of Manitoba is no longer sending in the mail those property tax credits. Instead, they're going to be deducted directly from the property tax bill. As it relates to your school taxes, there's a 50% rebate applies to residential and farms, and the owners of other properties receive a 10% rebate. It's a provincial program, and the municipality really has little information on this so far for 2024. The next slide shows a pie chart of the breakdown between municipal taxes and school taxes. So For 2024, the municipality will collect on property tax bills a total of $4,131,910 in school taxes and a proposed total of $2,089,884 in municipal taxes. So on average, 66% of the property tax bills are school taxes, 34 are municipal taxes. And the next is a bit of a line chart, which shows the school mill rates for the various divisions versus the municipal mill rate. The pie chart at the very top is the Brandon School Division with the highest mill rate. And for 2024, you can see it's 14.148. And then the bottom line is the municipal mill rate calculation, lower than all of the school division taxes. And ours is 6.902, and you can see it's going down slightly. Last year was 7.121. So for 2024, the overall tax levy increase is 3.9%, so almost 4%. But of this increase for 2024, the total municipal tax dollars collected is increasing 77,000 or 3.9%. Of this increase, 36% is from new development or additional assessment. So the actual increase relative to last year is 1.99% or 2%. However, individual tax bills may see a small decrease in your municipal taxes depending upon the special service levy and the assessed amounts. The next slide is a breakdown. So not only do we get tax mill rate revenues, we also get provincial grants. And you can see that second bar is second larger bar is for provincial grants. The third larger bar is we are planning on taking some accumulated surplus and putting it into the reserves. There's another slide that explains that more in detail. And then you can see we have like added tax revenue, special service levy revenue, tax penalty revenue. There's our mobile home fees, and we have some aggregate fees. That's, I think, the fourth largest bar there, and our local improvement levy. And then we're going to go through some examples of the municipal tax rate changes from last year to this year. The first scenario is showing a property with a garbage levy. So this property is assessed at $140,360, and its taxes last year were $1,000 for the general mill, and this year are $969, so went down a bit. But it is now paying the $216 for the waste and recycling special service levy. So the total taxes have increased from $1,000 last year to $1,185 this year. So a total of $185 increase, which is 18.5%. But if you compare that to the 2020 year, the taxes were $1,163. So really they've increased maybe $20 because of last year, the waste and recycling was not on the specific properties, it was on all properties. The next scenario is the same property, value of $140,360, and it now includes the Chater sewer local improvement. So that amount is $744. So the waste and recycling is also in that at $216. Its taxes have went down a bit from $1,000 last year to $969, but the overall amount, when you add both the mill rate plus the waste and recycling and the sewer, is $1,929. So that would be your biggest jump, would be those that have the Chater special service or the local improvement and the waste and recycling special service with your taxes. So that's increased. You can see the increase is quite high. The next scenario, the assessed value is a bit higher. So this one is 272,670 for assessed value. Last year it would have paid taxes of 1,942. This year, 1,882. So again, we're seeing a reduction in taxes, and again, no waste and recycling and no sewer in there. So that's seeing an overall decrease of about 3%. This example shows it's a combination. It's farm and residential and commercial, quite a high assessed value of 311,450, and their taxes are going down 3% as well. No waste and recycling is included in there, no shade or sewer. Their taxes last year would have been 22.18, this year 21.50. So decrease of $68. And the final example or scenario is just some farmland. That's also seeing a reduction. The assessed value would have been 80,000, and last year they paid $570 in taxes. This year, $552. It's decreased $18. Again, a reduction of about 3%. Now I wanted to talk about reserves. So reserve funds are generally used to pay for larger capital purchases and projects. There's a saving account, dollars, put away each year for the future. They can also be used to limit tax increases in years with anticipated unusual or extraordinarily high operating expenses. Budgeted contributions or transfers to the reserve, so putting money into your savings account today, increases the taxes that are collected as an operating expense in the current year. Operating surpluses can also be transferred to reserves. This does not increase taxes. Withdrawals from reserves, so taking dollars out of your built-up savings account instead of your checking account, reduces the amount of money required to be collected via taxation because those taxes were collected in previous years for these reserves. Purpose of reserves. Reserves are used to keep taxes stable. Otherwise, tax rates would fluctuate or vary annually when large projects or capital purchases require funds. Prudent reserve withdrawals is essential to avoid depleting your reserve funds and placing future tax rates and capital spending into jeopardy. Wise fiscal management should not only include current tax revenue raised, but also include the use of available reserve funds. The general reserve can be used for any purpose other than utility operations. General reserve withdrawals must be included in the annual budget, otherwise a separate public hearing must be held. Specific purpose reserves, such as the equipment reserve, must be used for their intended purpose, but inclusion in the annual budget is not required. However, use of money from a reserve for something other than its intended purpose would require a public hearing. So we have approximately $6 million in our reserve balance as of December of 2023, and there is a listing of most of our major reserves. Our general reserves has a balance of $22,100,000, and that's used for anything except for utility operating. Capital development reserve of $96,000 used for development related. Equipment reserve, $794,000 for major equipment repairs and replacements. We have a bridge and culvert reserve of $301,000. A Canada Community Building Reserve of $2,400,000. And this is annual federal government grant. and it's used mostly for infrastructure-related projects. It's previously called the gas tax. Road construction reserve of $241,000. That's used for major road construction, and a planning reserve of $50,000 used for planning, like our zoning and planning development plan. Accumulated surplus transfer. So the accumulated surplus is the accumulated total of all surpluses less deficits over the years. Similar to a reserve, it's like a savings account, but is separate and in addition to the reserves. The accumulated surplus is calculated by the auditor and appears in the annual audited financial statements, but it is not easily discernible in the internal financial statements or the unaudited financial statements. The accumulated surplus can be used as a source of revenue within limits in the current budget to pay for operating or capital or transfer to reserves. We have approximately 1.2 to 1.3 million in the surplus, depending on the results of the 2022 and 2023 audits. For 2024, Council proposes transferring $685,000 of the accumulated surplus to various reserves, providing more transparency to the public and the present and future councils. Of this $685,000, we're going to put $100,000 into the general reserve, $200,000 to the equipment reserve, $200,000 to the infrastructure reserve, $100,000 to the natural disaster reserve, and $85,000 to the fire tanker reserve. So now we're going to talk about the expenditures. Our expenditures or our expenses are categorized by services. There's general government services, environmental health services, economic development services, protective services, public health and welfare services, rec and culture services, transportation services, environmental development services, and fiscal services. And the pie chart shows you a breakdown of the cost of each of those services for the 2024 year. And you can see the biggest chunk of that is your transportation services, and secondly is your general government services, and followed by your protective services. And we'll go into those in detail in the next slides. The general government services, the budgeted amount for 2024 is $913,364. And this includes council indemnities and expenses of $89,000, administrative staff and consultants of $401,000, office expenses $124,000, legal and audit fees of $115,000, assessment levies and taxation of $66,000, convention expenses $12,000, property and liability insurance $75,000, grants provided by the municipality $20,000. Protective services, total protective services for the 2024 budget are $520,000. This includes our fire protection of $282,000, police protection of $187,000, which gets offset by fine revenues of about $50,000 and MPI revenues of $25,000. There's the emergency coordinator, $8,400. 911 fees, $24,000, and animal and pest control, $16,550. The transportation services, again, our largest services, it budgeted of $1.515,979, so that's over $1 million. It includes snow removal and sanding of $24,500, road maintenance and ditch mowing over $1 million, and this gets partially offset by the $400,000 revenue from our haul roads aggregate fees. Drainage and culverts $45,000, public works employee wages $229,000, workshop and repairs $82,000, fuel and oil $75,000, insurance $6,200. Street lighting, $17,700, and material and supplies for traffic of $7,000. Our environmental health services. Total 2024 budgeted amount of $336,890. That includes the waste transfer station, $48,000, waste and recycling, $260,000, municipal wells, $19,500, and our conservation district levy of $9,500. Public health and welfare budgeted amount is $810. That's a social assistance levy. It's pretty much been set for years now from the province. Our environmental development services for 2024 are $59,098. This includes our planning and zoning. It's the operations of our Keystone Planning District, which is shared with the Elton municipality. It includes the building inspector and development officer working within the development plan and the zoning bylaw. The economic development services, total of $15,000. That's pretty much for engineering services. And our rec and culture services of budgeted amount of $21,000. And that includes library of $7,000 and a parks and playgrounds for $14,000. And so that's the end of our expenditures. And now we're talking about debt. So the 2024 outstanding debt is $448,052, and this is for the Chater sewer system. And it's for the borrowing, the annual payment of $38,195.68 over 20 years. Individual properties are going to pay $954.89 annually, except for 2024, they're paying $744.06. This annual amount is added to the taxes of those property owners who did not choose to pay their share up front, but rather for this borrowing over 20 years. There's a provincial regulation that requires the amount of debt a municipality, or that says the amount of debt a municipality is allowed. One of them is the maximum of 7%. Ours clearly is 0.01%, or a maximum of 20% of your revenues. Ours is current level is less than 1%. So we are in an extremely low debt position. Our 223 surplus and our 224 balanced budget. The Municipal Act does not permit a municipality to incur a deficit. The 2023 surplus, which is your budget versus your actual, is approximately $350,000. Considering the municipality's $3.76 million budget, the actual expenditures can never exactly match the proposed budget. Thus, a variance, which we do have one of 9.3%, is expected. The municipality proposes to use this 2023 surplus funds towards increasing reserve funds and funding a number of capital projects. The 2024 balanced budget revenues of $4,759,139 equals the budgeted expenses of $4,759,139. The majority of the difference, or the increase between 2023 and 2024, is because of a transfer of $685,800 from the accumulated surplus to the reserves, which we talked about previously in a slide, and also a one-time provincial infrastructure grant of $350,000. Our utilities. The Chater low-pressure sewer system is operational. Property owners can now connect to the system. We are currently conducting a rate study to determine an interim sewer rate to cover operating costs. We will also be conducting a rate study for the water system to determine adequacy of the current rates. The capital budget. So municipalities must complete an annual capital budget to plan the current year's capital purchases and projects, and as well as future capital acquisitions such as asset purchases and infrastructure upgrades. Some of the expenditures that council is planning for the 2024 capital is road repairs, playground equipment, and administrative office upgrades. We're required to do a 5-year capital plan, but that is simply a plan, as completion of these capital initiatives will depend upon a number of factors such as expected or unexpected priorities, affordability, fund availability, costs, and public sentiment. There will no doubt be another more pressing priorities identified during this period. As well, there will be an election in 2026 with new council setting its own priorities. In that capital budget, municipalities did receive a one-time grant from the province of Manitoba this year to assist with infrastructure upgrades. Our share is $350,000, and we're using that to do some upgrades. The Patricia Road paving overlay, the Marsden Road reconstruction and ditch work, and Grand Valley and Spruce Woods micro sealing of required areas. The capital budget equipment purchases, we purchased 2 new graders on trade for $617,000, dozer blades for the graders, $73,000, packers for the graders on trade, $59,000, a police vehicle with lights and cameras of $90,000, fire services UTV, which is cost shared, of $20,000, ditch mower and arm, $55,000, and a tractor lease of $70,000. And in our capital budget, there's some other capital expenditures or projects. A playground structure, the slide says Chater, that's actually for Spruce Woods. The cost of that is $100,000, and there may be grants available as well. The Marsden Road engineering, estimating cost of $60,000. General costs of $1,000 for engineering, and that comes from the Canada Community Building Fund, and the office renovations of $140,000. And there may be also some grants available for that. Okay. So the next step after this public hearing, the Municipal Act requires the council adopt the financial plan by May 15th. We are waiting for the municipal board approval of the Chater sewer local improvement plan before the financial plan can be adopted. A second hearing is required of this budget if objections require budget revisions that increase tax rates, transfers, or an amount of the capital plan. We then have to do 3 readings of the tax levy bylaw, and this bylaw will also include a 1% late payment penalty for your taxes. The financial plan and the tax levy bylaw must be filed to the province by June 15th. And then we then send the province all the information, and they produce the tax statements. The tax statements are mailed out around July and are due September 30th. And then finally, every month, we put the unaudited financial statements available on our website, and that can allow anyone to check to make sure that the actual expenditures are matching these budgeted amounts. So the conclusion, council has carefully developed an operating budget that they feel is fair under continually rising costs and infrastructure and equipment needs. For the capital budget, we are fortunate to have the reserve funds to be able to plan for a number of capital projects and purchases. And both the financial plan and the presentation will be on the website for closer inspection by anyone at any time, or you can stop by the municipal office for a copy. Questions?
Thanks, Ollie. Great job.
So,
No? Anybody have any questions? Yep, come on up, Kurt.
so that
Yep, feel free, yep.
I'm good.
We got a chair waiting for you.
I would commend Colin for the excellent presentation.
you.
being a councilman for 20 years. I think, if I had more than two thumbs, I'd give them all to you. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
The paperwork's really good, self-explanatory. I have the one question regarding the 100 grand for playground, it's Cheater and Spruce Woods.
Just Spruce Woods.
Just Spruce Woods.
Typing error,
Okay.
sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, that's just the one. And the only question I have are two, numbers wise, for the general operating fund. There is under fiscal services, 23 was 80 grand. I just give the round numbers. And the 24 budgeted is 411,000.
What page are you on?
Page 1 of the general operating fund. Under fiscal services in the middle. Like in 23,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, in 23, the actual was 80,000. Budget was 343, but then in 24, budgeted was 411,000. In 25, it was 39 again. So just, how we arrived at a number.
Kurt, that's a real good question. I've got a check mark beside that one. I earmarked it. I will say, I forgot to mention Kerry Lawless, who worked tremendously hard putting these numbers together. He gave us a real nice spreadsheet. It's all in here, but the sheet that was provided everybody, that's a municipal form.
Yeah.
It's really tough, but we will grab that question. I had
Let's get
it's
some
a-
rough numbers, let's say, I don't know, 50 grand for next year secretary or, where I'm coming from.
yeah, that's a real good question. Why is such a vast difference?
Yeah,
Kerry had to go
I know.
places tonight,
That's
so.
all
Okay, so if you have a look at page 5,
Okay. Yeah,
you can see where that amount is. So you were questioning the amount of 411,796, which is the total fiscal services. You can see that the increase is due to that 380,234
transfer to capital.
transfer to capital.
There we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the transfer to capital is also on the page, which lists all those amounts on page 13. Yeah. And again, you can see that 380,234 that we just talked about
Yeah,
is road work. And I would guess that's balancing the $360,000 that we got, that we plan on doing those 3 projects on from that grant.
Yeah.
So basically that's because we got that $360,000 infrastructure grant.
well, ma'am, gentlemen, that's all my questions.
Thanks, Kurt. Anybody else in the audience here?
Got some questions.
Yep.
Oh, you want me to come up there? You can
Yep.
hear me.
Yeah, no, it's hard to hear. Come up front, please.
I second Kurt's comment. The presentation was well done, quite explanatory. The one thing that was maybe missed on the, as far as listing off some of the different properties that were taxed, there wasn't anything there for, let's say, an aggregate property. It would have been nice to actually see a breakdown of taxes on an aggregate property. Now, I had contacted Terry this afternoon because it doesn't actually show when you're going through here where our weed spraying is and where dust control is. Actually, under dust control, I think it's got, there isn't anything in the line for dust control. And the weed spraying, I think Terry, you said you thought it was put in with grass cutting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that for sure?
It is for sure, yeah.
Okay.
38,500.
So where is the dust control? Or is there, like, is what line is that on? Or what's it been rolled in with?
So we have it here in the road maintenance expenditures of $100,000 for Ward 1 and Ward 2 on here. So where is it on
Oh,
here?
okay, where it is on here.
Yeah,
And if I just make a comment, again, that's the challenge, because most likely the provincial sheet that these numbers get plugged into probably doesn't have dust control on there, so I think it's gotta be in the, somewheres underneath the transportation, has to be, but we'll have to.
well, there's only one item there that has that figure, and that is what's called roadworks. And it's for 986,200, so. if you-
Correct. Yeah, that's where it would be. Yeah.
So it would be there on page 3 of your. That figure of 986,200,
Okay,
it would be included in that
okay.
for the sum of $100,000.
And then another thing that I noticed was under, licensing, under your aggregate transportation licenses. Normally, the licenses have been between 30 and 33 licenses. I see the actual in 2023 was 280, but our budgeted for 2024 is only 2,000. And the licenses are up to $200 now, correct? Yeah. So by rights, if you have 30 licenses, that should be a figure of $6,000, correct? That's on page 2. So on my page 2.
You have 2,000 on both.
Yeah.
So that would be 20
20 licenses.
licenses, yeah.
Yeah, he, when I asked Kerry on Saturday for that, he did say he had to put a number in based on the deadline. Whatever the deadline was, that's the number licensed. So I'm assuming we've received requests for 20 licenses at the $200.
Well, 20 licenses at $200 is 4,000. And what's down here would be 10 licenses.
I didn't ask him how many. He just did say he had to put the dollar value in based on the deadline. I think we extended it 1 month because of the paperwork issue we had earlier on. Is that correct, Kayla? Yeah, she did confirm it. So how many were issued or we've received now, I'm not sure, but he had to pick a number. And that's what he told me.
Oh, and one of the other questions I had, like, sometimes there's been that recycle rebate. The 1 year it was like $65,000. Is that hidden somewhere here in?
What he told me was that with the changeover in staff that we had initially, we missed the first deadline for the first half of the year. So we missed out on getting half of that revenue for this year.
So how much was half of the revenue? And do you
Yeah.
know where is it?
So that's gonna show as an income.
Hey,
Uh,
there,
We've got something here, folks, on the
Page,
Excel spreadsheet line, it's on our page 2. Would that be under recycling, sales of recycling?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, 61,948 was actual in 2023.
And so that was half, we would have that.
No, that would have been the full amount,
So
but
that would have been the full
Yeah.
amount, so we only had
so we
30,000.
missed it in, I think there's a delta of what happens last year, we get paid for this year or something. Is that how it works? Yeah.
we missed it.
There is a lag.
Yeah.
I don't know what the lag amount is.
But this year, it's
Yeah, it's down.
49,414.
And he's got a note there, Mr. Councilor Ross, you see the note he left us?
Yeah, the rebate dropped.
Dropped.
Okay.
Well, that was the other part of it too, the amount that the province is,
Paying out is dropped?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other thing, the playground, the 100,000 for that. Now, I understood that there had been quite a bit of money earmarked for that playground before, and somewhere along the line, some of it's just disappeared, and some stuff that was there has disappeared. So before giving them any more money, I would assume that you'd be trying to track down the money that has already been given
Go
to
ahead,
them.
Councilor
well, I
Ross.
wasn't on the council at the time, and I don't believe that you guys would have given money to an organization. I know that they do have money that they have raised themselves, so they do have a bank account, and they're gonna be required to.
If I may,
Go ahead.
there's 3 people that made a presentation before council, probably in 2020. I got the paperwork at the house from the presentation, and the money was transferred, whatever was given as a grant from the RM or from the men's club, into a different fund that was being held by those stroke people. One was the former Reeve, one was another person. I got the name, I just can't remember it.
Okay.
But I would suggest that council request for one of the person to make a presentation, and also, since it's public money, account where the money is and what it's being used for. 16 grand was used for with Little Hill there with the grant, but there should be still, I don't know how much, left in the account.
I've been in contact with this person in the last week, actually, and there is money that they have in their account. And according to Kerry Lawless, they'll be required to pay approximately 10% of, it's gonna be a three-way partnership between them, hopefully a grant, and the municipality.
Can I ask a question relating to that? Sorry, Lynn, I just wondered if somebody's gonna actually oversee the contracting of services, because I actually was briefly involved, offered to do some fundraising for them. And the girl I talked to was just a young mom. And there was some questions about the amount of money and what it was spent on, and it seemed like a lot of money. And I just wanted to make sure that there's somebody that actually knows about pricing and what's fair, so they don't get hosed when they go to contract services, like an overseer or a third party, to make sure they're not getting ripped off.
Yeah, we'll be having a meeting in the next few weeks, so I'll invite you as well.
Thanks.
And the one other question I had in expenditures, what do they classify as traffic services? Just curious.
Your signs,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I think I've asked my questions, because I asked some questions about these expenditures. Oh, I guess one other question I had, there was the summer students. I thought at one of the meetings there was talk about applying for that grant for the summer students for some help.
No, we didn't go there.
I didn't go there. Okay. And there's no grazing leases this year, obviously.
No which?
Grazing leases, they've been dropped.
I think it's zeroed up by the Crown, isn't it? Isn't it? Leases. Crown leases for people. Is that what you're talking?
Crazy.
That should be zero out it. They don't show up on our stuff.
Yeah.
That's what he was contacting the Crown.
Okay.
Okay,
Here, sure.
thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Yep. Come on in.
Sorry, I missed one of my
Yeah.
marks, but I should have done a mark on there. One question about the line on the general, page 3, general administrative, legal, jumped from in 23, 52,000 to 24, 115,000. Do you expect something different, legal, whatever, in the jump, and then went back to about 35 in budgeted for 25?
On page 3, you said?
Yeah, legal, the one to the fourth number or fourth line from the top.
So, if you want
Yeah.
to respond to that one, Sam.
Which one? Oh, yeah, it's the code of conduct. We
Oh,
put
okay.
$100,000 in for the code of conduct.
That's it? Easy, thank you, gentlemen.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Come on in, Carla,
Uh,
or come on to the chair.
I said after the last time I spoke and ended up on YouTube, I wasn't gonna open the motion, but there I go. I also wanted to echo what Mr. Wasserberg said about the presentation and the amount of information and the clarity and the ease of understanding this budget. Unlike anything I've seen before happen here in this RM, I just can't say enough good stuff about how well done and how well put together the presentation was. And so, thank you very much for all the hard work.
Thank you so much.
That
Thank you
was
so
a
much.
lot of a lot of effort went into that. and it's very,
Appreciate
very
that.
sweet. The one question I had, and I don't know if you have a crystal ball or not, but there's $90,000 there budgeted for a new police cruiser. And I did attend the public hearing in Rivers talking about the police force and how it's basically dissolving there. And so knowing that Darwin is been counting down for quite a while and we may end up losing our constable, I'm just wondering, if that still makes sense or if we should be trying to limp along our current equipment until we kind of know what's going to happen with the future of our police service.
I will refer that question to our police board chairperson, Shane Grovan.
Referring to whether Darwin will still be here.
Well, whether we'll actually be employing a municipal cop, because once Rivers,
We will be employing Darwin, yes. And as a police chief, he will be actively recruiting someone to take his place eventually when the time comes for him to retire, which is not near
Anytime
future.
so has anybody done a cost analysis to decide what it would cost to have the RCMP versus the, what's it, $500,000 police budget?
No,
Or did I read that wrong?
Yeah,
Is that
that's
just protective
protect-
services?
yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
fire
that's
and
fire
everything,
in there.
Yeah,
911.
there's 300 plus for fire and stuff.
So I was just wondering if anybody did that cost analysis to see like if the RCMP is cheaper
He might
than
have
us.
looked behind you.
Thank you.
In my last year or the last 2 years, I was in the board chair, I sort of have all the information, how many different individual police forces are, and also the information in comparison, individual police forces to RCMP. To have one extra RCMP officer down here for us will cost us in excess of $250,000. And it does not mean that he will be exclusive working for the RM. He will be added in the area, and that's it. We're sort of tempered with our police officers. But we should just try to hang on as long and recruit somebody, whatever that he can train.
Right. And so then will he be actually taking over by law enforcement?
That
He does already.
is the hope that he does more of that. Mhm.
More, but he does some already.
Good, that's all my
Yeah, thanks,
questions.
Carla.
Thank you very much. Great job.
Yep. Is there anybody else in the audience?
Do you have the online people?
Come forward there, Bill.
Is there anybody online?
Mm-hmm.
Bill Curtis. I'd like to thank everybody for putting your presentation together. I know it's not easy. I know it's hard work. I just have a couple of questions regarding the expenditures. Chief Administrator Office and staff. 2023 budgeted 185, spent 261, 928. 2024 is budgeted for 401, 316. Why is it double?
I'll attempt to answer that question. So we have 2 consultants that are working for us right now. And we've also included, there's also 2
Could you mention who those are?
consultants.
Yeah.
It's our interim CEO and Holly Crisco and Carrie Lawless.
Okay.
And we also have 2 full-time administrative staff that are in the office here as well. We've also budgeted for a CAO, and we have to allow for a period of knowledge transfer. So that's factored into there as well for about a 6-month CAO position in there as well. And then once, end of the year comes around, the knowledge transfer has been completed. If we do retain the services of a permanent CAO by that time, that's why it goes down next year.
So I understand that firm has been on hold.
Yeah.
The consulting firm. What are they doing with our money?
They started the search,
Okay.
and so they're holding on to the money for now. Actually, it's non-refundable, right?
As a retainer.
What's that?
It's a retainer.
It's a retainer.
Yeah, like the first 10,000 that we've given them was an advance, and they have done some work. We don't have I don't know exactly of that 10 what we've spent.
You don't get a breakdown? You don't ask for a breakdown?
No, because
Because that's our money?
no, we had to pay that initially. That was the contract said 10,000 in advance. So we had to pay that in advance, $10,000 non-refundable.
So with that advance, I would have thought that you would have done the due diligence of asking, what do you get for that 10,000 to start with? But that's beyond that. Next one is legal. I'm gonna get my line here. Budgeted in 23 for 60,000, spent 52,741. 2024, you're budgeting 115. My question for council is our legal on a retainer? Or every phone call that is made there by whoever, is it with a resolution? And is it sanctioned to be honored? Because if our legal is not on retainer, every phone call costs the residents money.
This question's kind of been asked and answered already. There was, how much put into that?
I requested $100,000 be put in there for the 4 code of conduct,
To cover the 4 code of conduct.
cover the 4 code of conduct. The last time I did, if you look at the financial sheets, we're at 25 already. Yeah, a retainer.
So that's a retainer for legal, or is that?
Well, that's all the firm
But
that's
you
looking
see,
at it.
that doesn't give the residents a breakdown of what that covers. Just by putting it under a general name of legal isn't saying what you're spending that money on.
Well, like I say, on the Excel spreadsheet that we went through, it's broken down, and there's $100,000 earmarked for the code of conduct.
That's the shortcoming
Yeah.
of these forms that are provided by the province that we have to present as our budget.
Okay.
And it's like the Reeve says, it is more itemized on the Excel spreadsheet version.
But we don't get to see that, do we? No.
You could have a look at
Yeah.
it, sure. We don't,
It wasn't printed.
yeah.
Is it public information? Can we have copies?
And that's where I struggle. To me, this is
Well,
public. and-
Well, all it is a breakdown of, we can't,
The big thing is it starts with transparency.
Yeah.
How can we figure out what this council is spending that money on when it's not earmarked in a form where you can see what it's being spent on? If it's for the code of conduct, say it's for the code of
Yeah,
conduct,
I agree.
right? If it's for a phone call to a lawyer, say it's for a phone call. We spent this much money to figure out whether we needed a legal counsel or not.
so we cannot separate out everything.
Okay.
So the budget is like, it amalgamates all of them into certain codes. When we were doing the budgets, we had those long sheets available, and some folks that were here asked for them, and we did give them out.
Yeah.
But we didn't, because it wasn't finalized, we said, return them back to us because those aren't the final numbers.
Mr. Curtis, this is already a 14-page document.
I know. Yeah, I know.
And this is double-sided here, and we're at page 24, so you got a 26-page document here.
So my next question is, we'll move on here. This is my last one. The audit. 2023 was budgeted 12,000, actually spent 19,507.
Which page are you on?
It's still under
Page 3.
expenditure.
Oh.
Page 3.
So like, I thought is our auditors, they do our budget, correct?
No.
No.
Okay, so that's a separate item.
They audit the financial,
Who does that?
the census, who is our,
Okay,
they're under contract.
We're required to appoint an auditor
Yeah.
and to complete a contract with the auditor.
Yeah, and we've
In
got a 5-year
advance.
contract
Yeah.
under the last,
so there was nobody added to that?
nobody?
Like there wasn't another accounting firm
No.
on
No.
top of census?
No, it's got a
Okay,
think there
I'm
were
just asking the
a
question.
4 or 5-year term that the last council.
It was a 5-year term, but
Yeah.
I'm just asking the question whether there was another firm added to that price.
No.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So will the spreadsheet be available to the public?
I see no reason to miss out. I mean, there's no secret information. It's all numbers that end up in here.
If there are comments that, need to be redacted.
I would say if somebody wants to, well, it's up to you. Well, I guess council have to talk about it if we
Yeah.
wanted,
I have,
release that to the public or not. Yeah. It's really a working document for us, so
but it's a nice breakdown.
Yeah.
Administration did a really good job. Come
Mr. Chairperson,
on up, Kurt, so the audience can hear you.
It's not a question regarding, it's just a clarification. The municipal code has under an item, and I can say offhand, there's about 5 or 6 mentioning of different documents that individual taxpayers can request from either council or from CEO. And it also mentioned whatever it is, and I don't know if the spreadsheet or something explanatory is on there, or it's just a financial plan. But I think that it's just a financial plan, because that's a working document, that's how you arrive on the financial plan. So maybe look it up and then see if it's possible or not, and then we go from there.
it would be up to council if they
Yeah.
wanted to release that information to the public.
And I can appreciate, the need to keep certain things, private to avoid more controversy. However, we're coming out of a period where there's been a lack of trust by the public, and so I would just ask council to perhaps look for a balance there where you can protect some information, but also provide some more transparency so that there's a happy medium.
We'll discuss it.
You want us to ask if anybody online is?
Okay, I'll ask from the audio, or from the Zoom. Does anybody
Are you on
online
YouTube
have
or
any
Zoom?
question?
If you're on YouTube, they don't have the ability to ask questions.
No, we're on Zoom.
We're on. Does anybody from online have any questions about 2024 financial
I'm
plan?
assuming they can text me.
Kim says she's sitting in the queue on Zoom. She hasn't been accepted. 23 minutes ago.
Okay,
I don't.
just trying to work out technical
See her
issues here.
anywhere, so I don't know.
So they're not. Yeah. If there's nobody asking questions, I'd say there's probably nobody
Yep.
that's able to, because I guarantee there's.
Well, no, I have to unmute them, so enable waiting room, uncheck it.
Let's see if I
That
got
way
this.
it should be just be able to copy. Let's see. It's hard to, because they're unmuted, so they can sometimes type it in, and I don't see that anybody's. Where am I?
You
Where
can
am,
look at the reactions and ask the
Where am I
questions. and
looking-
then they
where am
put
I
up their
looking at
hand if they want to speak.
Nobody's waiting. Nobody's.
oh, here it is.
You're in the chat.
Usually they can chat.
So
other than-
feedback is Kim saying that they couldn't hear anything online, so they don't even know how to ask a question because they couldn't hear any audio.
Okay,
Interesting.
And is she on? So she's on Zoom and she
Yeah,
couldn't
said
hear
she
any of
just
it.
got accepted, and so she said, I just got accepted, can't hear anything, so I guess I have no questions.
Mhm.
I said, well, try, and she said, I can't hear a thing, so don't even
Really?
know what to ask. Oh, she says now she can hear,
so she can hear us.
so maybe there was volume turned up or something, or I don't know.
Well, I didn't do anything, so I don't know.
And you're unmuted.
Yeah, she's talking.
I don't know what to.
Well, if they can't talk,
There's only two.
Is there anybody else online who's
Yep.
got questions?
is there anybody else online that has
Is there two?
There's only
Question.
two. There's
There's only two people online?
two
only
people?
two.
No questions.
Okay. If we can't hear, did she have a question?
Well, the thing is, they don't have their
Yeah.
audio on and they don't have their video on. So, and they aren't putting anything in the chat. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't leave their mic unmuted because there would have been feedback. So I can't,
Okay, I mean, we tried, we got.
I can't see anybody
we'll have
that
technology to
wants to
work
talk.
through this smoothly. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Ollie, just put it on mute again. Yep. Last chance for the people in the audience here.
There's someone that's on the live chat on the YouTube. And they asked, point one, what's the utilities reserve? Point two, how can you substantiate an increase to reserves with being delinquent 2 years of audited financials?
I didn't hear that. I got a cold and I didn't. So what was the question, Lynn? Can you speak up?
Okay. Just gonna pull it up there.
Utility, all I heard is utility.
Okay. It says, point one, what's the utilities reserve? That's their first question. Point two, how can you substantiate an increase to reserves with being delinquent 2 years of audited financials? That's the question they have.
I'm not sure what the utility reserve is.
Yeah.
And how can we okay,
They
How
said,
can you substantiate an increase
to
to reserves without being
2
delinquent
years of
with being
audited
delinquent in
financials?
all the financials? An increase to reserves without being delinquent in 2 years of audited financials. Well, like normally you would be you would not have your audited financials available for last year, and we'd be working on this year. So we're really only the 2022, and we are working on completing that so we can have an audit done. And transferring to reserves, like none. So budgeting or transferring to reserves is not dependent on having an audit. An audit just ensures that you've completed your books properly. So, yeah, you can be delinquent in having your audited statements and still continue.
In the utility reserve, when I talked to Kerry, I asked
Yeah,
him, because it's not on here.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure. He's not sure.
Yeah, he's
right
not
now,
totally
so,
sure
yeah.
because he's working out some details. Yep, so is that the only two questions online? Okay. So if there's
So
no
hang
more
on.
questions from the audience,
Ask questions here. We in the audience will read
Yeah,
them.
because they can't communicate on Zoom on YouTube, right? There's no two-way communication. So that question that was just read was on here.
That
So
was
for
on
the
the
folks
chat.
that can't, the Zoom's not working for, I put that comment saying, ask questions here, and we in the audience will read them out to you.
Oh, okay. I can see them now.
so that was the only two there, Holly? Yep. Okay. So if that's the only two from the YouTube, so I guess that concludes our 2024 financial plan public hearing. And I guess the next step is to close the public hearing. Is that correct, Holly? Like, if there's no more questions, we can't communicate.
There's nothing.
Yep. Is there more from the,
I don't see anything there.
okay. So I'll have a motion to close the public hearing.
A motion.
Councillor Ross moves to close the public hearing. Councillor Drohan seconds it. Any questions? I'll call for question. All in favor? No, carried. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Okay. So now we'll go to 5.1. I'll read it over. Be it resolved, bylaw 1731.
Okay, you're just gonna have to give me a minute.
What's that?
You're gonna have to give me a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So I can get
Just tell me when you're
I
ready.
can leave Zoom because we're no longer doing that, and I'm leaving the YouTube live so they can see the remainder. So I'm closing my Zoom, ending the meeting,
Recordings.
and closing convert meeting recording.
Just leave that up just a minute.
Closing this guy. And I can then go in here and close this one as well. And this fella I could put over here as I normally do. And then I can then go in. Go.
You're stuck in the matrix.
While Holly's doing that for the audience there, and council's already, we can't adopt the, it was on the presentation, the financial plan yet until we hear back from the province. But we can give it first reading.
Stuck in the matrix.
Tell me when you're ready. Holly.
I would suggest just ending it and restarting it.
I think we're okay. Yeah.
Can I ask council a question? Why is the agendas under notices and not under agendas? Like, we don't have a copy of the agenda for the rest of this meeting,
Would you like a copy?
please.
Okay.
The agenda.
Can you print this for me?
But nobody has answered my question, like, why is it on the website under notices and not under agendas of the meeting?
We are working on it.
There is a notice of the financial plan, and if you go on the website, there is also an agenda for this meeting that's on there as well.
It's under notices too, though, is it not?
No, it's just a notice of the financial plan hearing, and then the actual agenda for this meeting, which is after the financial plan hearing, that's also available.
It's under the agenda.
Yes.
That's where I seen it here.
Mhm.
You know, like Holly hasn't been feeling well the last 10 days, so she's been putting in a lot of hours putting this together. Sorry for not having a physical agenda out there. The actual agenda.
Yeah, I was just more
Yeah.
focused on the
Yeah, that's
financial plan.
financial, and you did a great job, thanks. Holly. Yeah. I could have brought mine and printed it home.
No worries, I can print it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kayla, for doing that.
Blame it on the old people.
That's fine. Yeah.
Ready?
Be nice. You guys get one over there?
I brought my own,
Oh, good for you.
yes.
Show off.
I'm ready to
Oh,
rock and
okay,
roll, yeah.
yep.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
be it resolved that bylaw 1731-04-2024, being a bylaw to levy property taxes for the year 2024, be hereby read a first time. Can I have a mover? Councillor Ross, Councillor Drohan seconds it. Anybody got any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, that's behind us. Okay. 5.2. Be it resolved that bylaw 1719-11-2023A, being a bylaw to amend the aggregate bylaw 1719-11-2023 for 2024 fees, be hereby read a second time. Can I have a mover? Councillor Drohan moves it. Councillor Maxwell seconds it. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Be it resolved that bylaw 1719-11-2023A, being a bylaw to amend aggregate bylaw 1719-11-2023 for 2024, fees be hereby read a third and final time. Can I have a mover? Councillor Brown, Councillor Maxwell seconds it. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay. We'll table 6.1. It's on our agenda there to table it. Okay, I'll read out. Be it resolved that council approves submissions under the Water Services Board 5-year capital plan as follows. Backup generator for the Chater water system, Spruce Woods Lagoon Force Main and low pressure collection system for Spruce Woods, Grand Valley Water Treatment Plant and distribution systems. Carrie's got some notes from the bottom. I'll have a mover to put it on the capital 5-year plan. Councillor Ross, seconder. Councillor Brown, Seconded. Any questions? Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay. I'll read out the other one we can discuss it. Be it resolved that the municipality enter into a 2024 noxious weed agreement with MTI.
Yeah, I just put the resolution ready. I don't imagine you guys are going to do that. They had some pretty strict deadlines on this,
Yeah.
and I just got it. But and I asked the question. He did get back to me. You guys have this municipality has not previously done that.
And I put it on the table for council. We haven't had a chance, we haven't had a transportation meeting. I would say we should table it, and with the administration, they've got too many other things going on right now to be writing up agreements. That's my suggestion as a head of council. No action?
It's not moving.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah,
The
that's,
thing about it too is
It's
that
never been
it's
done.
presented to us so late.
yeah,
You know, it's not in the budget for the extra cost because they go through us first and then.
Yeah, so this is us doing the highways
Yeah.
weed control. And I don't even like, we're set up to have a contract for our own weed control. So I have no idea if you have any interest in this or not.
if I may add, I think we did the 1 year, but with administration, we got too many other agreements right now that should take higher priority. Yeah, they reimbursed us. We did a,
For sure,
there
yeah.
was something out there
Mhm.
3 or 4 years
Mhm.
ago. So I think we should just pass over it and let them do it.
Like some of the municipalities provide their own. So they would just go ahead and do the highways as well. But we don't provide our own. We actually have a contractor do it. So
And it's only been in the last few years that the province actually has reached out. to
yeah,
us.
yeah.
And I think they did a year too, so, yeah. Okay, 6.4, we're gonna deal with after. 6.5, it's tabled as per the CEO. So I'll have a motion, 6.6.
And I have not had a chance to put those.
6, yeah, I think we need some numbers in
yeah.
clarity.
Put those. Sorry, Shane, I haven't had a chance to put the.
I think council sees the resolution, like, there's no numbers, no make a truck, the dollar value, we need some numbers in here. I couldn't support it the way it's written here, because I don't know what we're buying. Like, as per the resolution, I think we need to give the CEO some time. We could call a special meeting if we want to work.
We can just put it as buying as per police board's recommendation.
No, you'd need some dollar values in specific.
I did see the numbers. We were getting the numbers, right?
We were given numbers, but she hasn't had the time, what she just said, to incorporate it into the resolution, because that's where the money is being spent. We've got the proposals as a council, but
And you had given me the 3 bids again.
Yeah.
I just didn't get a chance to
to,
finish the 3 bids,
Yeah.
put them on there and put the resolution on there.
so why don't we just table it, and then we'll come back to it at the next meeting. Like, work with the CEO, what you want in the resolution. Okay, okay. So the next one is 7.1. Be it resolved that council appoints and authorizes financial assistant Kayla Porter and deputy reeve Terry Ross as representatives of the RM of Cornwallis for all matters relating to Revenue Canada and Service Canada. So can I have a motion? Yeah, Councillor Maxwell, second, Councillor Brown, seconded. Any questions?
Is there something I should know about?
I asked that question. I'll let the Kayla and the CEO explain exactly.
They want a
what this
copy
is
of your
about.
license. They want your social insurance number.
the bank. Oh.
No, this is CRA.
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't the credit union?
They want your
What I em-
firstborn.
What I emailed you was the credit union. This is different.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we have to get Jordan off the account. And
Oh, gotcha.
we have to appoint somebody in the office to have access to the CRA, and because Holly's interim, we have to be somebody permanent.
For the audience, this is to set up a GST account with Revenue Canada We had one and it got closed because of the personnel changes, so. if you
It's
don't
usually
mind-
tied to a person, and
Yeah.
that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
They tie these to people, and then when the people leave,
Yeah.
you gotta establish a new account.
We have a lot of
So can-
information. Carrie's gonna do
Can I have a mover?
Yeah, we gotta move her in a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? No, they're coming after you, Peg. Okay. All in favor? Terry, thanks, Terry, for doing that. Okay, now I'll have a motion to go in camera for a few minutes. Can I have a motion to go in camera to deal with the item, Counselor? Okay,
I'll second the motion.
seconded by Counselor Brown. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, we'll go in camera. We'll be back in a few minutes.
I think I'm going to shut the YouTube off because
Yes.
there's nothing yet to, other than to end the
Yeah.
meeting, so.
Or
And
you
the-
mute it, then at least the voices aren't there. Because you have to kick everybody off.
Yeah, but we're done the meeting.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
Okay, we'll go in camera. Shut it off. Because last time it was left on.
yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna end the stream. Oh. And I'm gonna